In the year 2032, deep in outer space, we are introduced to a spaceship called Hail Mary. Inside the ship, a man suddenly wakes up with no memory because he has been in a coma for the past 2 years. He has no idea how he got there. His name is Grace. Wanting to understand what is happening, he starts exploring the spaceship. While searching around, he discovers several dead bodies and realizes these people had come on the mission with him, but they are all dead now. After this, he goes to the control room and learns that the spaceship's AI is named Mary. He tells Mary to return to Earth, but Mary replies that they cannot go back until the mission is completed. Grace finds out that the mission had started from Earth 2 years ago, meaning he has been traveling continuously for 2 years. Now that he has regained consciousness, his memories slowly begin to return. He remembers that he used to be a high school science teacher who taught molecular biology. Around that same time, scientists had observed an astrophage line extending toward the planet Venus, which they named the Petrov line. They discovered that a microscopic organism called astrophage was rapidly spreading across the surface of the sun, causing the sunlight to weaken. Scientists predicted that within the next 30 years, this would lead to severe global cooling and eventually destroy life on Earth. Grace believed that scientists would soon find a solution to the problem. After class one day, a woman named Eve comes to meet him. She is actually the head of the Hail Mary project. Eve knows a lot about Grace because years earlier he had published a paper claiming that life could exist on a planet even without water. People had mocked his theory, and as a result he was removed from the scientific community and started teaching at a school instead. Eve tells him, "We want to give you another chance. We have a project, and I want you to work on it." She takes him to a lab, hands him a sample, and asks him to test it. Grace spends hours analyzing it, and finally concludes that it is a single-celled organism through which electromagnetic radiation cannot pass. Neither light nor any other radiation can move through it. It clearly does not belong to Earth. It is some kind of alien microorganism. Eve becomes very excited after hearing Grace's theory. Grace quickly realizes that this is the same organism responsible for cooling the sun, the thing connected to the Petrov line. Eve later confirms that his theory was correct. Life can indeed exist without water. These microorganisms come from Venus, and they are called astrophage. A team of 130 scientists had been working on the problem, but Grace's theory turned out to be the most accurate. So Eve officially recruits him into the team and takes him to their massive research base. There he learns that they need to produce astrophage in huge quantities. Grace asks why, and he is told that astrophage will be used as fuel for a spaceship because it can travel at incredible speeds. Scientists have also discovered that among all the stars in the nearby systems, only one star called Tau Ceti is not dimming. Every other star is gradually losing brightness. Through this mission, they plan to send scientists near Tau Ceti to investigate. However, this is essentially a one-way mission. Whoever goes there will never return. The scientists will conduct research and send their findings back to Earth using small robotic spacecraft that travel extremely fast. Sending normal radio messages would take 26 years, which is far too long. 3 scientists are selected for the mission. The story returns to the present, where Grace realizes that both of his fellow scientists are dead. He tries harder to remember his past, though not everything has come back yet. For months, Grace continues traveling through space. One day, the AI Mary informs him that another spaceship has appeared nearby. Grace looks outside and sees a completely different-looking ship made of a crystal-like material. Suddenly, something is thrown from the other ship toward him, which frightens him at first. But when it doesn't explode, he realizes it might be a message. He exits his ship, retrieves the object, and carefully examines it. He discovers that whoever sent it included their location. Grace realizes the being came from a planet called Eridani. He then sends his own location back in the same way. Soon after, something extends from the alien ship and connects with the Hail Mary. The 2 ships are now docked together. A passage forms between them. Though terrified, Grace gathers his courage and moves forward through the tunnel. There, he encounters an alien creature unlike anything he has ever seen. It has 5 legs, a rock-like body, and is much smaller in size. The alien makes strange sounds, but neither of them can understand each other's language. However, both quickly realize that neither is hostile. Together, They create translation devices so they can communicate. Once the devices are completed, they discover they are both on the exact same mission to save their planets from Astrophage. Grace names the alien Rocky because his body looks like rock. Soon, the two become close friends, since they are both completely alone in space. Rocky tells Grace that 23 others came with him on his spaceship, but all of them have died. Grace explains that his two fellow scientists also died during the mission. Grace creates a special translation device for Rocky, allowing everything Rocky says to be automatically converted into Grace's language. Since both of them share the same mission, they decide to work together to save their planets. Rocky eventually enters Grace's spaceship inside a crystal chamber because oxygen is poisonous to him. He cannot breathe in Earth's atmosphere, so the chamber acts like a protective suit. Once inside, Rocky jokes that Grace keeps his spaceship extremely messy. Over time, the two develop a fun friendship. Rocky tells Grace that they should continue the journey together, using Hail Mary. Grace agrees. Rocky explains that he is a mechanic on his spaceship and that his wife is waiting for him back on his planet. They have been together for 183 years. Grace tells Rocky that he once had a girlfriend too, but they are no longer together. After traveling for 11 days, they finally reach Tau Ceti. There, they collect samples to understand why Astrophage has no effect on the star system. When Grace analyzes the samples, he discovers another organism, a type of bacteria that can destroy Astrophage. Grace becomes extremely excited because this means they can save both of their planets. However, they now need a large amount of this bacteria, so Grace can send it back to Earth using robotic probes. Rocky sadly explains that he cannot return home because his ship only carried enough astrophage fuel for a one-way trip. Rocky then tells Grace, "You are my friend. I won't let you die." He offers some of his own fuel so Grace can return to Earth, even though it would add 6 extra years to Rocky's own journey home. Grace becomes emotional and hugs Rocky. The two move their ship closer to Tau Ceti to collect more of the bacteria. However, the gravity there is incredibly strong, making it difficult to stabilize the spacecraft. Grace goes outside to collect the samples manually. The process takes a long time, and he is injured because the gravity keeps pulling him downward. Somehow he manages to bring the sample box back inside the ship, but when Grace tries to escape the planet's gravity, the engines experience too much pressure and explode. Grace is knocked unconscious. Rocky, seeing everything happen, breaks out of his crystal chamber and takes control of the ship. He switches the spacecraft to autopilot and places Grace inside the hibernation chamber so Mary can heal him. The story then flashes back to the past. Grace and Ava's team had successfully built the spaceship engines, and the selected scientists were preparing for the mission. But suddenly, a massive lab explosion kills all 3 trained astronauts. Grace is ordered to replace them on the mission, but he refuses. Ava tells him he is humanity's last hope and says they are not asking him. It is an order. Grace is captured, sedated, and forcibly sent on the mission. That is why he woke up 2 years later with no memory. Back in the present, Grace finally wakes up again. He sees Rocky lying unconscious outside his crystal chamber. Grace realizes Rocky nearly sacrificed his own life to save him. Grace then studies the bacteria they collected and discovers that it completely destroys Astrophage while multiplying itself by feeding on it. He names the organism Predator. This is the reason Tau Ceti's star was never affected by Astrophage. Grace now believes Predator can save both Earth and Rocky's planet. Later, Grace brings his ship near Rocky's spacecraft. During the night, he suddenly hears movement and discovers Rocky is still alive. Overjoyed, Grace hugs him and tells him they succeeded. They can now save both of their worlds. Rocky takes Grace inside his crystal-made spaceship, which amazes him. Rocky then transfers astrophage fuel into Hail Mary so Grace can return home. The two friends say goodbye and head toward their respective planets. Several months later, alarms begin sounding inside Grace's ship. He discovers the Predator samples have evolved and are now escaping containment to consume the astrophage fuel itself. Grace fixes the problem, but he realizes the same thing is probably happening on Rocky's ship. Rocky cannot solve it alone. Grace faces a difficult choice. He does not have enough fuel to save Rocky and still return to Earth. In the end, Grace sacrifices his chance to go home because Rocky is his true friend. He sends all the Predator samples and research data back to Earth using robotic probes, then changes course to rescue Rocky. After several months, He finally reaches Rocky's ship and repairs the problem. Meanwhile, back on Earth, many years have passed. The sun has dimmed so much that an ice age has begun. However, Eva finally receives Grace's samples and research. Scientists quickly learn how to destroy Astrophage and successfully save Earth from extinction. In the ending, Rocky brings Grace to his home planet, where Grace lives inside a giant dome with an Earth-like environment. Because Grace traveled near the speed of light, only a few years passed for him while many years passed on Earth. Rocky remains by his side and even repairs Grace's spaceship completely, filling it with fuel so he can return to Earth whenever he wants. And with that, the story comes to an end. If you like this video, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel.